Going to go ahead and call this January 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Whitefish City Council to order. Thanks everyone for coming. I apologize, we're running a bit behind, but we had a work session regarding our Baker Avenue underpass project this evening. So it's rather fitting to have Whitefish Legacy Partners here. And I'm going to go ahead and modify the agenda, and I'm going to go ahead and bump item 10A, which will be resolution 20-3 up behind communications from the public. With that agenda change, I would like to ask Mike Jopek to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would. Thanks, Mike. I will move on to communications from the public. We do not have any public hearings scheduled for this evening. If you have anything to share with the council, comments, just please approach the podium and your name and address for the record, please. Any public comments tonight? Sir.
Personal issue, may I bring it up?
Sure.
I'm not sure if this is the right forum. My name is Bradley Tooch.
Address, please.
Pardon?
Your address, please.
Equal and fair treatment under the law. Okay? Right now I'm staying at the Chalet Motel, but previously I was the manager of the Chair 3 apartments for 13 years. And I'm having issues of not being treated equally and fairly by the local police. And I would like to see the plaintiffs charged equally. I'd like to see myself charged equally as well as anybody else. And so if you could steer me in the right direction, or if this is fine as the forum to address it, I think I'm done for now.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
And thanks for coming this evening.
All right.
Yeah. Further communications from the public. Toby? Not seeing any, we will move on to what will be item 10A, or was 10A of the agenda, which will be resolution 20-3, a resolution approving the terms of 4 public recreational trail easements over private land for the Whitefish Trail. And it's my understanding that, Heidi, are you prepared to deliver the staff report on behalf of Legacy Partners, or Maria?
I think I need Angie.
Angie told me it was you. Okay.
We have some things we'd like to share with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you want me to go first?
Yes, please. Thanks.
So I'll be very brief because this is truly a Whitefish Legacy Partners project. They've done a fantastic job of securing 3 and hopefully 4 easements across private property in furtherance of their Close the Loop campaign. We have 3 successfully negotiated easements with Elk Highlands Homeowners Association, Winter Sports Inc., and the Michelle K. Episcope 2011 Gift Trust. And my understanding from Heidi is they are also extremely close to reaching agreement with the final landowner. I just heard from Whitefish or Winter Sports Inc. this afternoon. We had some insurance issues kind of going back and forth, and they are going to actually sign it today. So it's a huge accomplishment, and I will let Heidi fill you in on some of the bigger details.
Thanks, Angie. Heidi or Mike or Alan? Yeah, thanks. Great.
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Mike Jopek. I am the chairperson of Whitefish Legacy Partners, a local nonprofit whose board is comprised of Reed Sabin, Fred Jones, Judy Baldridge, Leslie Hunt, Ed Leeser, Hank Rickliffs, Becky Smith-Powell, and Diane Conradi. Our full-time staff is Heidi Van Everen, Alan Myers-Davis, and Margosha Judkowski. Whitefish Legacy Partners' community-minded mission is to ensure conservation, education, and recreation on the lands around Whitefish for future generations. Since 2003, we have worked tirelessly with the community partners to protect over 6,000 acres of local forest land with permanent conservation while building over 40 miles of Whitefish Trail in our backyard. The first of our dozen trailheads opened 10 years ago at Lion Mountain. Today, over 130,000 locals and visitors enjoy recreating on the trail every year. A decade later, Whitefish Legacy Partners, along with the city of Whitefish, celebrated 25,000 acres of conservation, 2,500 acres of conservation, 1,500 of it which is put into the Beaver Lake Public Recreational Use Easement. That's the easement that you guys hold in the Beaver Lakes area. That was a $7.3 million endeavor and bolsters the state's permanent education funds and continues to generate $300,000 every year, which goes to our schools and universities in Montana. That's what Beaver Lake is doing. It's pretty phenomenal. In total, our conservation recreational efforts with your partnership has contributed over $12 million in cash payments to the schools of Montana since we began this work. Legacy Partners has grown into an effective and strategic community nonprofit with over 1,300 donors, 60 corporate sponsors, and 300 volunteers on the ground doing the work. Our ongoing relationship with the city is formalized with an MOU, monthly meetings, Whitefish Trail Endowment Fund, currently over $1 million, and our current long-term planning look ahead as we move forward. Smith Lake is at the head of Whitefish Lake, as you know. It's our next major pursuit of a quiet conservation and family-friendly trail area. We recently returned from Helena, where we were giving very positive green light to pursue the conservation and recreation objectives at Smith Lake. Protecting the 400 acres of Smith Lake with a public easement will cost the community millions of dollars, but it will also generate $150,000 additional annually to the school trust fund. It's a heavy lift to permanently protect Smith Lake. We'll work on it for multiple years, and we'll need your help. The Whitefish Trail increases our quality of life in our community. It improves the mental health and physical health of our people and keeps our local economy humming by generating over $6 million in consumer spending in Whitefish every year. Every day we hear positive stories about the trail's impact, and we are grateful to have so much support. As we look forward to our strong partnership with you, the city of Whitefish, it's integral to this conservation's efforts' long-term success, this partnership. No one could have realized how long it would take us to get here back from 2003, or how many people would be visiting our town now that we are here. I think times have changed over the last 17, 18 years. We continue to be actively engaged in long-term planning to ensure these important community investments and to protect and maintain our asset for generations to come. We have a Whitefish Ops Trail Committee that's going to be working on some user conflicts, and we also have a long-term LILAC committee, LLAC committee, which is going to be working on maintenance issues moving forward. Heidi's going to talk about the trail easements, and afterwards we are very happy to stand for questions.
Thanks very much, Mike.
That's great, thank you. So as Mike said, my name's Heidi Van Everen. I'm the Executive Director with Whitefish Legacy Partners, and I also am a Whitefish resident for Pine Avenue in town. So I'm here tonight because I want to ask you for your support so we can continue our partnership and have the city hold these 3, soon to be 4 trail easements up off of Big Mountain Road. So I guess it's not super easy to see the map, but where we're talking about is connecting between the Holbrook parcel up the Big Mountain Road and connecting towards Hell Roaring Basin. So these easements are going to bring us another step closer to closing the loop of the Whitefish Trail. At this point, the Whitefish Trail is 43 miles and 14 trailheads. So it's been a huge accomplishment for us over the last 10 years, and we still have more to do. As you likely know, the Whitefish Trail is a non-motorized, single-track, natural surface trail, and it provides a high-quality recreation experience for hikers, bikers, and equestrians. We have 25 miles of trail on the west side of town that's accessed just 2 miles outside of town from Lion Mountain out to Beaver Lakes, and it provides access to 7 lakes in the Beaver Lakes area. On the east side of town, we have the Haskell Trail, which is a 5.5-mile trail that connects from the city right next to the water treatment facility on Reservoir Road and connects all the way up to Whitefish Mountain Resort. At the head of the lake, Swift Creek is there. We have a lovely out and back, sort of quiet, more flat landscape, brings you out from the trailhead over to Smith Lake. And then we also have Spencer, where we partner, we have the north-south Whitefish Trail Loop, and we also work with the Flathead area mountain bikers and the city to support the free ride Spencer trails. So we're thankful to partner with the Glacier Nordic Club, also up at the Big Mountain Trailhead, to provide groomed access in the winter as well. So as you all know, so many people love the Whitefish Trail, locals, visitors, friends, family, dogs, young people, old folks, everyone in the Flathead, and we're lucky to have it right here in the backyard, in our own backyard. So thank you for all your support in making this a reality for our community. So the easements that we're talking about tonight, we've been working for a number of years now to connect from the Holbrook parcel to the Flathead National Forest. There's actually 5 easements that we will ultimately ask you to hold. We have 3 of them secured now. The 4th one is hours away, and the 5th one is still to be completed. So there's one segment that we have a couple opportunities, but we're still sort of letting those relationships evolve. So all these 3 and soon to be 4, they're all donated easements. So luckily for us, there's no money that needs to exchange hands, and they're willing to allow us to design, construct, maintain, and manage the trail in perpetuity. So it's going to give us a whole new destination. We'll be able to go across from the Big Mountain Trailhead and get up into Hell Roaring and have a destination there where there'll be a bridge over Hell Roaring Creek ultimately. So your support for this is critically important. We're so thankful for all the work that Angie has done, the city attorney, as well as Dana Smith helping both as the finance director and now as the city manager, and of course the Parks and Rec department. We couldn't do it without the partnerships that you all as council and your staff helped to support. So, the community continues to be engaged and involved in so many ways. We get support through financial donations. We have huge volunteer numbers that help maintain and manage the trail. We have donated professional services, we have corporate sponsors, we have education events, and then we just have community celebration events as well. So thank you for being a partner in this. It's a pretty exciting thing for our community, and I think a model throughout the state, and we're excited to be able to increase our quality of life and keep our local economy strong and thriving. So as Mike said, if you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Heidi. Any questions for Heidi? Frank?
Heidi, my little question. You referenced that the trails are generally open for equestrians as well. I noticed in all of these easements, and this is really a question, it specifically excludes horses.
Yes, these easements that you're accepting now do.
Right, and my question is, why?
The private landowners would like all dogs on leashes, and they do not want equestrian. It's just a requirement of the private landowners.
Okay, and maybe you're not at liberty to talk. My question is, what's the objection? What's the basis of the objection? We don't like horses, or we just don't like their poop, or I really am kind of question as to what the...
I think they're concerned about the impact, and I think it originally started working with Elk Highlands, the homeowners association, and I think they were scared that their landowners weren't going to be willing to support a public trail easement because the trail is located on a conservation easement parcel, and that easement parcel had allowed for a trail corridor for them to develop for them privately. And we basically went to them and said, would you be willing to support the public? And so the focus for them was, yes, if it's a through trail, and if you'll have no horses, and you'll have dogs on leash. So it was just a requirement.
Great. Thanks.
Further questions for Heidi? I had one, and it may be more directed towards Angie. The resolution references 4 private trail easements. We're only acting on 3 this evening, correct?
You are, that's
Okay,
correct, I'm
great.
sorry, that's my mistake.
Quite all right. Just
I think
wanted to-
Heidi and I thought we'd have them done by
Right.
this point.
Okay.
We're hours away, so 3
Hours
tonight.
away? Should we
Yes.
wait?
No. You can bring it back up at the end if I text Angie, but no, I
Okay,
don't think so.
great. Anything further to add from Legacy Partners?
No, thank you again for all your support.
Thanks. And I was thinking on Saturday, it was 4 years ago Saturday that we passed the deed of conservation easement for Haskell Basin. So we've come a
Nice.
long way in 4 years. And,
I know, it's
A
happening
lot of credit
fast.
to you and of course Maria and her staff and Angie and everyone at the city. So
All of us. Thank
thanks
you.
very much for coming.
Excellent,
Yep.
thank you.
Great. We will need a motion to that effect regarding the 3 private land easements.
I'll move to approve resolution number 20-3, a resolution approving the terms of 3 public recreational trail easements over private land for the Whitefish Trail.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Quinnell. Further discussion, comments? All those in favor, please raise your hand, and those opposed, like sign, and that passes unanimously, Michelle. Thanks again for your time. Thank you. We'll move back to item 5, which will be our consent agenda. Any changes or additions to the January 21 meeting minutes, or can I have a motion, please? Rebecca?
Just one correction to the minutes. Page 18, seventh paragraph. Andy Fury comments, line 2 should read a comment, not a comments. That's it. So,
Thanks, Rebecca. You get that, Michelle? Okay.
With that amendment, I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Hennon. Further discussion as amended. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And those opposed, like sign, and that's unanimous as well. Michelle? We have 0 scheduled public hearings tonight, so we'll move straight to item 7. And communications from Craig Workman, our Public Works Director. Item 7A, consideration of appointing a rating and selection panel for the 2020 Transportation Plan Update. Craig?
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The 2009 Whitefish Transportation Plan projected future transportation improvements out to the year 2030. I think that it's become apparent in the past years that the city's transportation systems are over capacity during the peak season, and alternative routes of travel and modes of transportation are needed. And with this in mind, an update to the 2009 Transportation Plan is also needed to assist city staff in coordinating proposed projects with the planned future transportation grid. Thus, Council Goal PW 20-09 was created to update the city's transportation plan. This process will engage the public in identifying and evaluating transportation conditions in Whitefish, along with alternative modes of transportation such as biking, walking, and public transit. The ultimate outcome of the plan is to adopt a transportation plan update that will prioritize goals and objectives to improve transportation into the future, provide a practical set of policies and rank tasks to achieve those objectives, and lay out the necessary funding mechanism to make the plan a reality. So with that in mind, an RFP was issued for the plan late last year. Proposals were due on January 10th last month. And the city has received 2 proposals, one from RPA and the other from KLJ. The FY20 budget does include $50,000 for this transportation plan update. However, since the city is currently engaged in several other planning efforts, all with transportation components, it's anticipated that the final adoption of this plan may carry into fiscal year 21. So my anticipation is to engage a consultant at this point, evaluate the plan and the level of effort necessary, and potentially determine if money is to be carried over into fiscal year 21 or if additional funds are necessary. So in order to move that forward, we do need to follow the council policy for selection of consultants. That policy was drafted in 1990 and updated in 2016. And in accordance with the policy, both a rating panel and a selection panel must be established by council. The rating panel shall be made up of city staff and other individuals. And I do recommend that council adopt myself and Karen Hilding to serve as the rating panel. In addition, the selection panel must be comprised of the department director, one other staff person, and one elected official. So it's my recommendation that myself, Karin Hilding, and one council member of your choice be nominated to serve on the selection panel for the 2020 Transportation Plan update. So I'm just looking for adoption of those two recommendations and for council to appoint one member for the selection committee.
Great, thanks, Craig. Any questions for Craig on his staff report? Anyone dying to sit on the selection panel?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Thanks, Andy.
I would move that at the recommendation of our Public Works Director that we appoint Craig Workman, Karin Hilding, and I believe the mayor would love to do this one, so
Take it.
to the selection rating panel.
Thanks, Andy. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Sweeney. Further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, like sign, and that motion does carry unanimously. You know, it's quite all right, because we'll move on to item 8, communications from our Parks and Recreation Director. Item 8A, consideration of appointing a rating panel and a selection committee for the irrigation and landscape design RFP process. Maria.
Good evening. I too am here to seek some assistance with the selection committee and a rating panel. As a city, Whitefish Parks and Recreation Department maintains and repairs publicly owned irrigation systems in all of our parks and right-of-ways and other public property. We are the largest user of water within the city. And with that, it has become our goal to lessen the use of treated water for irrigation of vegetation. And so we are seeking a plan to incorporate more native plants and grasses into public landscapes and to lessen the use of water through evaluating our irrigation systems. In accordance with Montana Code Annotated and our adopted city policy for consultant selection, we are seeking proposals from qualified firms to conduct a comprehensive irrigation system audit of the city's irrigation systems and to provide this comprehensive irrigation and vegetation plan for the introduction and implementation of drought-tolerant, native landscaping, and appropriate right-of-ways and open spaces. Those proposals are due February 21st, and the project does consist of 2 phases. The first phase is a comprehensive irrigation audit, and then the second phase is a design of the irrigation and planting plans with specifications based off of the findings of the first phase. As well, they will prepare a detailed cost estimate for future implementation. In accordance with our consultant selection policy and procedures, the initial review of the proposals need to be reviewed by a rating panel made up of city staff and other individuals approved by the city council. And upon final review, a selection committee must be established, comprised of the department director, 1 other staff person, and 1 elected official. Given the requirements, I recommend that the rating panel and selection committee be made up of myself as the director, Steve Ballmer, our parks foreman, and then a city council member of your choosing. There, of course, is no financial requirement to appoint the members. However, TIF funds have been allocated for negotiating a contract with the successful firm once the RFP process is complete, and that will come back to council at that time. If you don't have any other questions, if you don't have any questions, I do respectfully recommend that the City Council appoint myself, Steve Ballmer, and a counselor of your choice to the rating panel and selection committee for the irrigation and landscape design RFP process.
Thanks, Maria. Questions on Maria's staff reports? Anyone willing to serve on the selection committee?
Quick question for Maria. When I read this today, I was kind of wondering, like, what kind of firm do we think we would get a proposal for on the irrigation audit side of the other part of it? I understand, but on this side, I'm like, is that something somebody specializes in, or would it be an irrigation company, or?
It would be a landscaping company, and we did a little research on that. Larger cities will have landscape companies that have certified auditors, but our area does not have any certified auditors. And so when we're looking at the qualifications in the RFP, we did take the certification component out. There are landscape companies that will do just landscape audits. They're just not a certified company. So we're looking more for experience in being able to audit your irrigation system.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Anyone willing to sit on the selection committee? Great, thanks, Frank. And we'll just need a motion to that effect, appointing Steve, Maria, and Frank, if it's your choosing. Steve.
I move that we would appoint Steve, Maria, and Frank to the rating panel for Committee for Irrigation and Landscape Design.
Thanks, Steve. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Counselor Hennon. Further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand, and that's unanimous as well. Michelle, thanks, Maria. And we're going to move to Michelle, communications from our city clerk. This will be Resolution 20-5, establishing the Employee Parking Permit Implementation Committee.
Good
Michelle.
evening. So just a quick correction on the agenda. It does state a resolution establishing an employee parking permit implementation. It's no longer employee parking permit, it's just parking permit. So we can just strike that. So the city of Whitefish recognized the need to improve and add parking in the downtown area. In 2019, Dixon Resources Unlimited was retained to develop a parking management plan. And after extensive community engagement, City Council adopted the Whitefish Parking Management Plan in October of 2019. As part of the parking demand management, a parking permit implementation committee will provide suggestions and feedback with respect to a pilot employee parking permit program. The committee will consider modifications and expansion to future versions of the program and evaluate potential residential parking permit programs. The committee will consist of stakeholders in the retail establishment, bars, restaurant, professional office, and hotel lodging establishments in the parking study area, which is displayed on the screen for you. A representative of the Whitefish School District and a member residing in the parking study area and or within the city limits, and then also 2 city staff members. There's no additional cost at this time, and city staff respectfully recommends the city council approve resolution number 20-05. A resolution establishing the parking permit implementation committee.
Thanks, Michelle. Any questions for Michelle? Motion?
I'll move to approve resolution number 20-5, a resolution establishing the parking permit implementation committee.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second, and I assume that's striking the word employee.
Yes.
Did I read employee? I think I omitted that. Oh, did I?
Yeah, we'll strike that
Okay.
from the
Sorry.
motion. Seconded by Counselor Fury. Further discussion?
Just
Andy?
quick question, my only concern is under section 4, the composition of the committee, given the difficulty we have filling committees, sometimes the specificity there might be a little bit of a hurdle for us. And I hope we don't have to revisit this and change that, so that would be my only concern.
All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Those opposed, like sign, and that motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Michelle. We'll move on to item 11A. You have Dana's report and close with the packet. Any questions for Dana from the council? Dana, anything additional to report on?
One thing. Last Friday, I met with the city managers from Kalispell and Columbia Falls, as well as the county administrator, and talked about the 911 funding committee recommendation that went to the board and was approved. The county has started discussing the recommendation that's come forward to hold an election to creating a district that would fund that center. And at this point, the county has requested that the city support that, that election and the process to moving forward with that funding mechanism. I'm still waiting to hear back from the county administrator. They're trying to determine if they would like a letter or a resolution. But what we would see in our financials right now, we spend about $180,000 that we send to the county for the 911 center. And that is used to fund those operations. Each city also has other contributions that they make, as well as the county. That amount would no longer be paid by the city. Instead, the county would be collecting that to fund that facility. So there are discussions that will have to take place on whether we would like to not budget those funds and hold the budget, not reallocate those funds, I should say, to another area and thus reduce property taxes. Or, which is Kalispell's approach. Columbia Falls hasn't agreed to that necessarily, so we do have options. It's really hard to tell the public that you're gonna reduce property taxes in a reappraisal year, or if you determine that you need an additional police officer. So I have not committed that the city would take that approach yet, but we do want to encourage, I think this is the best funding mechanism for this facility. So if that's the route that we take, I think that we should consider that. So just kind of a quick update. Again, we'll hear more from the county on what they want to see for support, but this would be on the ballot in November.
Great, thanks, Dana. Any questions for Dana? Rebecca? Microphone, please. Yep, thanks.
Hi, Dana. Just on the goals, number 6 was construct viaduct improvements, and we just had the underpass work study, and I'm just wondering, is that moving forward this year then?
Oh, let me see.
It's on this 3rd page.
So at this point, that project is pending the newly titled Downtown Whitefish Highway Study, was the urban study before. So we've been waiting to see what that plan comes up with traffic along Baker and along Second. That being said, in talking at our work session, it's something that we should probably consider. Do we want to at least have the ability to move the barricades along with the Baker Avenue underpass project? If we were to go with the 20-foot width project, concrete underpass, versus the 24-foot, we would have funds available that you could designate with TIF funds for that. So it's something to consider. At this point, though, staff was waiting based on that urban study. There was a lot of discussions of how a potential third lane could maybe be used over the viaduct with the previous city manager, so I'm not sure where those discussions have gone, but I'll follow up further. Craig, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I think you nailed it there. It was really sort of put on hold as we moved into the next phase of the sort of the couplet conversations, but I think some valid points were made at the work session tonight that this could be an opportunity to kind of rekindle the viaduct improvements. There is also potential budget allocation through the state that we could use for that project that we've talked about before. The city gets what are called urban funds from MDT on an annual basis. I think they allocate a couple $100,000 that can be used on Wisconsin or Baker all the way down to 7th. And that budget sits at over $1 million right now. So it's one of the things we've talked about internally. The last time any money was used from that urban fund account was when Wisconsin was overlaid back in 2015, I believe that was. So there's definitely money there.
Yeah, it'd be nice to move forward on it. I don't know if there's design plans or if the NDT, but it was when we did the Wisconsin Avenue corridor planning, we talked a lot about the entry into that section of town and the aesthetics of it. So, all right, thank you.
Related to that question, Craig, I forgot to ask John during the work session, does that cost estimate or those cost estimates for the underpass include trail construction on the west side switching back up to tie into the Baker Avenue sidewalk?
It does, yeah.
It does,
It
okay.
includes connectivity on the east side from where we'll leave off with Depot this spring, early summer, as well as connection to the existing BN trail on the west side.
Okay, great, thanks. Thanks, Dana. We will start with communications now. Steve, you've started the last 2 times, so we're going to bump across the road to Rebecca.
I'm still hoping to follow up on transportation with the city and the schools around, especially with safety, since we've had a recent accident. It has to do with the timing of the placement tests. I guess we have to wait for things like that. Otherwise, the river's been looking very pretty with the breakup of the snow and ice. So if anybody hasn't been walking along the river to see that, you should. And I think everything's else is going well in the city. So just take care of each other out there.
Thanks, Rebecca. Andy?
A couple things. First of all, I do want to congratulate the mayor on his being selected the Chamber of Commerce's Citizen of the Year. Well deserved. They couldn't have picked anybody better in the community, in my opinion, and I was glad to be able to be there.
Glad you were there. Appreciate that.
Couple quick things. Sustainable Tourism Master Plan Committee did meet again last Friday. I'll make a quick correction. I think to our next work session, I don't believe we're gonna have anything on that. I think we're looking at March 16th. We went through the implementation section on Friday, and the draft of the whole plan will not be out to the committee until this week. So I doubt we're gonna be ready the 18th. Wasn't that kind of, Michelle, Craig, wasn't it like March 16th, I think? So anyway, so sorry we won't be doing that then. It's Winter Carnival weekend. Everyone have a good time, be safe, be sane, and don't cause the chief any headaches.
Thanks, Andy. Ryan?
No comment.
Thanks, Ryan. Melissa?
No comment.
Thanks, Melissa. Frank?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Steve?
Nothing, thank you.
Great. Couple questions, comments. I didn't recall, of course, I was involved with the 2015 update to the downtown master plan. I don't recall what revisions were made in 2018. Could you refresh?
All we changed was we redesignated the snow lot, which had been designated for parking, long-term parking or overflow parking or employee parking. We changed that to high-density residential. That was the change that we made in 2018.
Okay, now I recall. Seeing Toby in the audience, and he had provided us a correspondence, I think months ago now, regarding just some suggestions for us to look into as a council. And I recall one of them was, and we've had a discussion about it, e-scooters, or the commercial application of e-scooters within the city. And I'm just following up on where we are with that effort.
I delegated that to Angie.
So we kind of took a comprehensive look at our code as a whole to decide whether or not, I mean, we definitely do have ordinances that forbid anybody from impeding our right of way. And so I'm taking a look at whether or not those are adequate. The chief and I have talked about it, or whether we need a more comprehensive ordinance that would deal with e-scooters, and hope to have maybe a work session with you guys fairly soon on it.
Okay, great. Just a reminder, our next meeting, as Andy mentioned, is actually on a Tuesday, so it's Tuesday, February 18th. And with that said, it was good to see ground broken out at the wastewater treatment plant. Looking forward to getting that project wrapped up and moving on to the water treatment plant. So with that said, anything further from staff? How about council? We are adjourned. Thanks.